Hi everyone. So sleep training, the big question, do I, don't I, what kind of methods are there to use? So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what I've learned throughout the extensive research I have done during my night shift feeding times. So one of the biggest challenges that I feel like I've faced from being a parent is how to get sleep just right. And I don't mean for yourself, I mean for your little one. And it's during these night feeds that I ended up doing a lot of searching. I hit my best friend Google up and was just asking questions such as, when is my baby going to sleep through the night? How do they sleep through the night? And any tips for this to happen? And I kept coming across the word sleep training. And at first, that phrase, it sounds quite intimidating. It sounds quite fierce in your face. Like, do I really want to train them to sleep? Surely they're just going to do it by themselves, right? Well, apparently not. I had to really try and think, would this be the right course of action for me and my family? And if so, what course of action do I want to take? We didn't have a constant when it came to nighttime. I mean, my little girl has always gone to sleep quite easily, but then I've always fed her to sleep, so I've never actually tried not feeding her to sleep. So I could be completely wrong. I might try that and it be that. So one night I might end up feeding her to sleep. Every night I feed her to sleep, and then some nights I might put her into mine and my partner's bed, because there she gets a guaranteed 4 or 5 hours in at the first stint of sleep. Sometimes I put her into her room, keep the room dark, put on some white noise machine. That's when I'm feeling really optimistic and I'm like, you've got this, girl, you can do it. And sometimes she does and sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes I rock her to sleep. So yeah, it's not a constant I've got at the moment. It's more, I know that one of those methods will work. It's just which one will bite that night. Here's what I learned in my research and what my verdict is. So please do continue to watch to find out what it is I've learned, and hopefully from one mum to another, I can help you and save you a bit of time that we don't have on the research I've done with sleep training. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for checking in. I'm NoTimeMum and I have a beautiful daughter, 4.5 years old, 4.5 months old. So used to saying years. 4.5 months old baby girl called Renae, and my channel is all about her milestones, the big milestones, the fun milestones in life and how we're going to get through them, and also just a little bit about me and how I get through it as well. So the Ferber Method is a method that was created by the paediatrician Richard Ferber. It helps parents help their little ones get to sleep with ease and with confidence, and drum roll, all by themselves. That's what we want. So what does the Ferber Method entail? It enables and it encourages your baby, something that we struggle with ourselves, to go to sleep by themselves with ease and with confidence. It does depend on the baby being both physically and emotionally ready, so do watch out for those signs, and I'll be talking more about that as we go on. And it is something that can be taught from 4 months, although looking online it does look like a lot of people start it at about 6 months. And the reason why it starts from 4 months is because some, and I emphasise on the word some, babies can sleep 6 to 8 hours throughout the night without needing any food. It's also where they haven't quite linked you being their comfort to a sleep association, so you want them to become their own sleep association before you do, before they learn all about that anyway, which is what they start doing between the ages of 4 to 6 months years old. So how do you use this method to get your baby to sleep? Well, first of all, you need to make sure you find the right routine that works for both you and your family. And the current routine that I have is simply bath and boob and bed. And I would love to add so much more into that, and I would like to make it more of a, thing, but as soon as she's on the boob, she is straight to bed. So that's why I've been looking into sleep training as well, because that's something I want to eliminate. I want to eliminate the feeding to sleep aspects of things. So my ideal routine, which I believe would work for me and my family, would be boob, bath, book, bed. And you really got to make sure your baby's engaging with you throughout this. They can't really be asleep while you're reading them a book, or I don't really think that would work. I don't know. Remember, I'm no expert. These are just my opinions. I'm learning as I go along, and I'm just filming the journey and doing a little bit of research to help save you some time. So you must put the baby to bed in their own space, in their own crib, wherever you usually put them to bed. And drum roll for the famous quote, they must be drowsy but awake. A dark, safe space is required. And either silence or the amazing white noise, which has become also my best friend. But don't worry, Google, you're number one. And you must, this is so important, you must leave the room when the baby is still awake. So how I'm going to use the method to help me is the first night I'm going to put her down into, well, the first night I'm going to give her the boob, then I'm going to bath her, read her a book, and then I'm going to put her down in her crib with the monitor, dark room and some white noise. I'm going to put her down for 6:30 while she's still awake, and then I'm going to leave the room. And I'm expecting, maybe not, she might surprise me, and I might not need any method, but I'm expecting her to cry, to grizzle. So the first night, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow through my routine. So it's going to be boob, it's going to be bath, it's going to be a nice book or a lullaby, whichever works best. And then I'm going to put her down into her own bed with the monitor on in a dark room and a bit of white noise. And that's going to be at about 6:30. And then I'm just going to leave her. So I'm going to leave her for 3 minutes while I probably wait outside the room and cry with her. And then after 3 minutes, I'm going to go back into the room, reassure her, let her know mummy's here, she's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to leave the room again. But you must make sure that she is still awake when you leave the room. You don't want her to fall asleep with you there. She needs to do this by herself. So go in there, put her to bed, wait 3 minutes while she cries, go back in there to reassure, come back out, wait 5 minutes this time, then go back in, bit more reassuring, leave the room after about a minute or two, make sure she's still awake, and then I'm going to leave it 10 minutes until I go back in, and then 15 minutes. And then the second night I would do the same routine. I might skip the bath. I'm not too sure about bathing her every day at the moment. If I would use one day where I just use warm water and the next day where I would use baby soap. But currently I just bath her every other day. So the next night I might not bath her. So it would just be boob, book, then bed. She does like my voice for singing, so I might, not that I'm a good singer, but I am not a good singer at all, but she does seem to smile a lot when I sing to her. So it could be a lullaby I use as well, yet to be tested and trialed. So then I'm going to put her into bed at 6:30, awake, and then the first thing, I'm going to wait 5 minutes. And then I'm going to go in, reassure, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes. And then the third night, I'm going to do 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 20 minutes. So these are my own timings. You can make up your own. You can do 3 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 7 minutes, then 10 minutes. The whole point is that just as long as you are gradually increasing the time in between each check-ins, that's what it is you want to be doing. And then eventually the baby learns how to self-soothe themselves, how to go to sleep, and you can walk out the room celebrating, but not too loudly. You don't want to wake them, and pour that glass of well-deserved wine. And then in the morning you can just squeeze your baby tight and just tell her or him how proud you are. So I believe it should only take about 3 to 7 days, this method, for it to actually work. And the hope is that after time, each day you're going in there less and less and less. So hopefully by day 4, I'm not still going in there 10 times and we're on 40 minutes of her still crying. I would probably re-question my tactics then. Is this method flexible? Most definitely. Like I said, you can choose your timings. You don't have to go by mine. They are my own. I may even change them myself on night 2. Just as long as you are gradually increasing the amount of time you are going back for your check-ins. And please remember, only stay in there for 1 or 2 minutes when you're doing the reassuring, and when you do leave the room that they are still awake. And you must not change the bedtime routine prior to doing this method. And most importantly, you don't want to go back to the thing that you wanted to stop. So to make that make sense, I don't want to feed to sleep. I don't want her to associate feeding is sleeping, because then when she wakes in the middle of the night, I don't want her to think I need food to go back to sleep. I want her to know, I've got this, I can go back to sleep. And obviously if she needs food, I'm going to give her food. Remember, you know your baby better than anyone. And if after 4 or 5 nights, it's not getting any better, I personally would stop and I would continue again in a few weeks' time. Because a few weeks to us, as much as they might go past in a blink of an eye, as everything is doing at the moment, for a baby's development, they develop daily. So a few weeks' time, they might be more than ready then. So if you feel like your baby is not ready, don't push them. Just go back to what you were doing and implement it in a few weeks' time. It can be really traumatizing for you. I've heard that some parents, many parents, end up crying with their baby. But if their crying gets excessive, like if they're vomiting in between the cries or they are breathless, they can't catch their breath, then I, again, personally, I would stop. That's telling me that my baby emotionally and physically isn't ready, like I mentioned before. The reason I feel like my baby is both ready emotionally and physically is because she is a really good sleeper. She wakes up a lot, but in terms of going down to sleep, her nap times, someone's just woke up from their naps. So I would say my baby's ready purely because during our nap times, during her nap times during the day, there are a few times, I don't know why she keeps looking at me, there are a few times where I do just put her down when she is awake. When I've watched her cues, I can see she's tired, but rather than waiting for her to fall asleep in my arms, I think, let me just try put her in her crib with the monitor on, and she does go to sleep. Or there's times where I do only have to check in on her once or twice if she's crying. So I feel like she is ready, but we'll see if I go ahead with this or not. I might be proven wrong. Isn't this just another name for the cry out method? No, the cry out method advises that the parent let their child just cry out with no interference and with no involvement from us. In contrast, the Ferber method actually requires us to check in on them in regular intervals throughout until they are okay. Until they are okay and dreaming. Isn't that right? Yeah. I do believe that using the same language and the same tone will help that baby associate that language and that tone with bedtime. So when I go in, I'll probably just be saying reassuring affirmations such as, "You've got this. I believe in you, darling." And mummy's here and it's sleep time now, but just in a really gentle voice. I've not been told that. I'm just assuming that if you use the same language and tone, that they will associate that with bedtime, just like I have been told many times a bedtime routine will help them associate that with bedtime. The Ferber sleep method is highly misunderstood and, like I say, a bit intimidating when you first hear about it. And I hope that I've saved you some time with the research that I've done. Apparently it can work wonders and it can be done in a very short space of time if the method has been used correctly. My verdict, well, our verdict, is that we are going to be trialing a sleep method and we're going to be starting tomorrow. I would say one of the difficult parts was not persuading, that's the wrong word to use, but was talking to my partner about it, because I've got a feeling he's going to be slightly more sensitive to hearing her cries than I am. It's just because I've been with her throughout the nights since she was born, where I am exclusively breastfeeding. And to be honest, there is a bit of a selfish element in there. I do want my nights back. I do miss going to sleep with my partner and waking up with my partner and getting sleep in between that as well and not being woken up throughout the night. Like, I am just being honest. So to talk to my partner about it, I sort of had to say to him, before you give any kind of put any walls up, please do your research, come back to me and we can discuss this together. I am no expert. Every single baby is completely different. Like I say, you know your baby best. You know what's right for your baby and you know what's right for you and your little family. Isn't that right, darling? So if you liked this video and you liked what you heard and you want to get some more, then please do just let me know and press that like button. Comment down below on how you found it, and also if there's any mum-to-mum tips you can provide. I am part of the mum community now, which is crazy, but I'm here to help you and I hope that you're here to help me as well. Hi everyone, so we will actually no longer be going ahead with sleep training. The verdict has now changed. So as you know, I said it was something I came across during my night feeds, and I'd done a lot of research about it, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and I said to him, let's not have the conversation until you do your research and then we can discuss if this is something we want to do for Renae. And the reason I said to him there's no point in us having a conversation is just like I said to you right at the beginning of this, is when you hear the word sleep training, your first initial kind of thought is, oh, you kind of recoil from it a little bit. It's a bit fierce, it's in your face. So I said, do your research first, and then let's have a conversation. And I just kind of assumed he would have gone and done the research, but instead, no, he hadn't. Every time I mentioned sleep training, I was like, oh, we're going to try this, and I'd send him links in WhatsApp, like, read up on that, and he was just like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, last night, I was like, this is happening tomorrow, like, I just want to know, I've got your full-on support with this, like, you've done your research. And he was like, no. And I was like, oh. but this is happening tomorrow. He had a bath, done the research, came out, and he was not really too keen on the idea. He felt sleep training is for a baby that has sleeping issues, and I did mention previously that Renae is actually quite a good sleeper, and he doesn't feel that he doesn't want to shock her into something when she's naturally getting really good by herself anyway. Like when I put her down for naps during the day, I do try and put her down awake, and there's a couple of times I have to go in, and she always does go down by herself. She doesn't contact nap on me. But my argument to him was I had started doing those little steps in the preparation for the sleep training. So yeah, we did have conflicting arguments against it, and you know, we kind of just met in the middle, and I just said, you know, I do want to try the putting her down awake, stop the sleep association from feeding to sleeping, because when she woke in the middle of the night, I didn't want her to think that she had to feed to go to sleep. So we're still going to work on that, but we're just not going to do the Ferber method where we're out here waiting for 5 minutes while she's crying and go back in, then waiting another 10 minutes, then going back in. I just said, okay, can we do a minimal amount and just do 3 minutes, and always just 3 minutes. You know, I put her down awake, expecting her to cry for a few minutes, and then go in, reassure her, come back out, wait a few minutes, go back in. Yeah, and it is important to discuss things like this with your partner, just because it is something that would affect you and your family, and he has just as much of a say as I do. I know I'm the one that does the feeds at night, and I am the one that has lost out on a lot of sleep, but ultimately me and Luke are both Renae's parents, and we are going to have to make decisions together throughout the rest of her life. So I don't want, you know, just because I believe something that we should go ahead with sleep training and he thinks we shouldn't go ahead with sleep training, just because I'm the one that does the night shifts doesn't mean that my argument should win. There was a slight moment where I did think that. I was like, well, I am the one that does the nights, and that is a bit of my motivation, but I don't want him to feel like his voice isn't heard. It's just as important as mine. We need to practice making decisions together. So when our decisions and our choices don't match, we need to try and find the middle point. And our middle point with this is that I'm gonna switch up her routine. Instead of it being bath, boob, bed, I'm going to do boob, bath, book, bed, put her down drowsy and awake, and then every 3 minutes just go in. So I think that's quite a sweet spot in the middle. Doing things like this, a trial, we're no experts, we don't, you know, we've never done this before, we can only go based off how she's doing, and she is doing amazing when it comes to sleeping. So as much as I feel that she can do the sleep training method, he feels it's a little bit not pointless. He just thinks that she's doing so well naturally already and she's hitting all these milestones, why force something onto her? So as I say, we do have conflicting ideas when it comes to it. I'm not saying I completely agree with him and he doesn't completely agree with me. So when that's the case, rather than one of us winning the argument, it's not about that. It's about us meeting in the middle and coming up with something that effectively works best for us all. So yeah, we're no longer going to go ahead with the sleep training method. But if you do, I'm still definitely keen to hear how it all went. And who knows, when it gets to 6 months' time, she is only 4.5 months. When it gets to 6 months' time, we might revisit the conversation. And then who knows, we could start it then. But for now, we're just going to slowly just change up her bedtime routine. But yes, please do keep checking in. Press the bell icon so that you do get notified when I next upload a video. And as always, please do subscribe. And if you liked this video, let me know. Click like. But have a lovely day, everyone. And I will check in with you again soon. Mwah.